Yo, this is the Ancient Texan. I'm going to talk about something that may upset some people, but I've thought it a long time and I've just gradually got my thoughts a little more um clear in my own head. There's a phrase, BLM, Black Lives Matter. I just realized that when I hear that phrase, I actually hear or feel Black Lives Matter more. And I think people like me, even if they don't realize that that's what they hear, when they come back with the phrase, all lives matter, that's because they're hearing or feeling Black Lives Matter more. I always wanted to hear Hispanic Lives Matter. That's because I grew up in El Paso in the Hispanic culture with names like Sanchez Garcia, Jose, Jesus. I love the Hispanic culture and I feel more at home among Hispanics than white guys. I also, besides growing up in El Paso, I lived in Peru for a year and a half and I adapted there pretty quickly because the culture was very similar. White privilege. As soon as I say Hispanic lives matter more or Black lives matter more, someone will say, you've got white privilege or white male privilege. I don't know if you've noticed, but white men are not doing good in our culture. They suffer from more drug usage, drug deaths, suicides, dropping out of school, dropping out of college. They're much in much worse condition than women were when they passed laws to improve women's conditions. They tend to be white collar and suffer from wealth inequality, computerization, outsourcing, downsizing, uh, maybe not downsizing. And they will often offer the phrase, if they're a white male and feeling or being accused of having white male privilege, that white lives matter. That will be their retort. Oh, and they will often be offended by Black Lives Matter more. White privilege, I would argue, exists only in the rich elite and does not go down to the common man very often. I actually am very insulted and consider it racist almost when you tell me I have white male privilege. I do, but I don't think it's significant uh, in countering um, the poverty I grew up in. I think on Flory Street in the middle of El Paso, white male privilege had very little effect. It helped me very little. You can argue with that, but it's not a given just because you say it did. I even go as far to say that I think Black Lives Matter is racist. And I realized that I just recently that I hear Black Lives Matter more when you say Black Lives Matter. Because of the woke culture that seems to decide what is okay to think and what is not, I am afraid to vocalize this belief that I think Black Lives Matter is racist. There's a sign in front of the church like place I attend that says Black Lives Matter right below a rainbow sign. I like the rainbow sign and all that it signifies and feel no resentment. I do feel resentment when I see the Black Lives Matter sign. When there was talk about reparations for the black, I always wanted to argue that the American Indians should be first in line for reparations. And it seemed to me like such an impossible goal to be fair in reparations to individual, given that what the group had suffered throughout history did not necessarily reflect what the individual had suffered throughout their lifetime. I actually think that there's a huge problem with identity politics. One assumes that the individual's condition can be inferred from the group. Now, I think that the groups that a person are in gives you some useful information. Pardon me, I've got a cold. Gives you some useful information about the individual, but it's just one piece of a complicated picture. It assumes that the individual has experienced what the group has experienced on average. For instance, you assume I have enjoyed white privilege that compensates on average for being born to a mechanic and a housewife, living in a 600 square foot home with my parents, brother, and a dog named Pug. You must compensate in your evaluation of me by throwing in that I was raised in a religious cult and attended public school in a poor area of town. But then, on the other side, you must throw in that I am bright, I was competitive, and much more confident than my circumstances warranted. I give some credit to my mom, so she's definitely in the plus column when you evaluate me. Of course, you might gather by now that I don't think much of identity politics. I admit that it is accurate on average. We are all part of some huge bell curve that represents our race, our sex on average, like some big statistical model of humanity. But I see no reason to use this model when I can simply see you as an individual and reach out to you directly. Look in your eyes, smell your breath, listen to your words, your ideas, and see your reaction. Is race the best descriptor? I also do not see race as a useful descriptor for a human. Yes, it is part of what you are, and in part what life has thrown at you. But a rich black child is perhaps more privileged than a poor white child or a disabled Indian child. A guy put a label on someone, they're disabled. Does that tell you all you need to know? Perhaps they're a mathematical genius, even though they're disabled and can't read. It's just a label. It's just a category they fall in. But they fall in many intersecting categories, like, common areas of different circles. Again, I want to put more weight on the individual and the road he or she has traveled and where he or she is right now. I actually believe that wealth inequality is a more universal um, descriptor, and poverty in general. Um, and wealth inequality, one's wealth level, is a more important tool in addressing our problems in this nation. If someone is poor and hurting, unable to have a home or health care or afford children, what additional information does their race or even their sex give me? I don't really care what their sex is. It's not relevant. They're poor. They're hurting. I just want to help them. I do not want to further subdivide them by their race. I think that's racist. I want to look at their condition, see them as an individual, and help them based on what they need. Does that make me racist? I don't think so, but I'm not sure the woke people would agree. And I know the MAGA people on the other side wouldn't agree either. I'm somewhere in the middle here, trying to find common ground where we can develop policies that don't depend on race, but depend on your level of need, your personal strengths and weaknesses, and who you are and your values. That's what I want to look at when I see you. So yes, BLM is BLMmore. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. When you say that to me, I hear Black Lives Matter more. Is that the best descriptor you can add to a person? I have a lot of baggage when it comes to identity politics. I resent it. I think it's racist. So I want to know if we can just start over, forming a relationship one-on-one, you and me, my friend, and see where that takes us. Get to know each other. And I don't care if you're green. I might care if you're a frog. Anyway, this is your Ancient Texan. Thanks for dropping by.